Mere mortals, welcome back to another edition of the Musings. Today we're looking back at the weeks that have been, because it has been a few weeks since we've done this recording. Thoughts, learnings, ideas, things that come to mind. A bit more of a structured way. Deep conversations with a light touch. Now, today, predominantly, as I talked about in the meanderings, I'm going to go through a little bit of the journey that was the 96-kilometer hike. So, not just talking about some of the funny stuff, but actually breaking it down, because there was ways to break it down into the many checkpoints that we actually went through. So,
for sure.
Just want to give you an idea, some thoughts, some learnings from it as well. If you ever find yourself needing to do a near 100-kilometer hike, some tips, some tricks, some do's, some don'ts. So I'll go through that.
Yep, cool. So if we have time, I will do the constantly fighting the desire to add things back in. I've been on my cutting things out stage, but it's difficult. It's difficult. And
difficult.
If we have time on sperm donation, why people don't donate sperm.
Ooh, okay. Stigma, I'd say, just the stigma behind it. But
yeah, there's a couple of things to it. So
all right, okay.
If we have time.
All right. Well, I'll kick it off. So check out meanderings. Of course, if you want to hear some of the funny stuff we already talked about, I might cover it slightly here. But if you want to check it out, go listen to that. So it began 7 in the morning. So the hike started at 7 in the morning.
Oh, now, here's a question for you. Would it have been better if it had started at other times? So for me, for example, I would have, if I was doing that thing, I would much have preferred starting at, let's say, 7 p.m. So I do a pajama day in the middle, have a nap before going on the hike, get the shit part out of it, the morning going in the dark, and then you've essentially got, the full next day of daylight to be able to finish coming into maybe not at 7 p.m, more midday-ish,
midday or something,
because then you get 2 periods of light.
Well, that's exactly and that's exactly what we found, because it might the experience for me for 7 a.m. was I only got 6-ish hours of sleep. Manshil, you got about 3.5 hours sleep, something like that. Like, it was nothing.
Too excited, or
no? Well, we went out the night before for dinner on the Gold Coast, which in itself, I left our place at 3:30. I didn't get down to the Gold Coast for the markets till 6:20 something. So it was a 3-hour drive to get down there first off. Then I had to drive back and drop Manshil off and come home. And by that point, I wasn't going.
Why was he with you? I thought
we all went down. We were as a team, we went down for the dinner. So we took one car. But look, in essence,
that seems like a bad idea.
We didn't sleep that much beforehand, and it started at 7 a.m. So got there. It started at 7 a.m., but we had to get there.
Yeah. You did the math.
20 minutes before 6 or something like that. So we were there super. I was getting up at 4.
Yeah.
So we were there super early. So already you're not sleeping a lot of times. And it began. So it began in waves, and it was pretty well organized. But they basically say, if you want to go right at the front, if you're the fast people, you want to try to get sub, between 10 and 20 hours, right at the beginning. Then the next wave would be 20 to 25 hours, then 25 to 30 hours, then all the way to the back. Now, we positioned ourselves thinking, okay, we'll do the 25 to 30 hour kind of range. That's kind of where we're aiming for, right? But there were so many people, or the way that they were just trying to space out people, we didn't end up going from the third wave. We ended up going in wave 10 or something like that. So we already were delayed by half an hour, 45 minutes. So that added on top of so we weren't walking for half an hour anyways, right? And it all began pretty easy, right? It was I'd done 20-odd kilometer hikes beforehand, so, I knew what it was going into. Our first major checkpoint, where we would see our support crew, was 30 kilometers. 32 kilometers to be exact, I think. Now, I was like, okay, so it's 10 Ks extra. We can do it. The beginning bit was a lot of road, working through houses. Easy, right? Easy. First checkpoint came up at about 5 kilometers. Took off the jacket, had a little bit of water. Everything felt fine. Cool. Then we got into the proper hiking and moving around. And that was hard, right? But it wasn't super challenging. Feet were okay. Everything felt okay. But I know that by the time I finished the last walk, which was the one, it's called Pre-Poly's walk, right? Pre-Poly. My feet were hurting, but I had hiking boots on. It was fantastic. I got to the point of the 32 kilometer, and this was around, 4-ish p.m., I think it was, or 3 p.m. No, it might have been even earlier. But anyways, got in there, and we thought, okay, 20 minutes. Now, I had predicted, based on my strategy, that at the minor checkpoints, we'd be taking 5 to 10 minutes. At the big checkpoints, it was supposed to be 20 minutes, but I said half an hour. We'll take half an hour. Now, this first big checkpoint, a couple of things happened. One of my teammates lost their sticks. So we were using walking sticks, lost their sticks.
How?
Left them just some other random place. We had to go find them, right? Then our support crew, like, there's not a hit on them, but they had to park really far away, not in the main area. So the walk, we had to walk back like 300 meters to go to their car, to then come back to the main area. Anyways, what all this situated was, we were over an hour in that first checkpoint, and we're like, oh, okay, all right, that's good, because I got to take my shoes off for a little while. I got to wear thongs.
So this was, what, 6 hours in?
This was, 6 hours in, right? 6 hours in, 30-odd kilometers. So it's good pace, right? That's actually a pretty decent pace in terms of what we were thinking. So I'm thinking a third of the way, basically.
Yeah,
6 hours, like maybe, it's going to be a couple more
20,
hills.
20,
I'm thinking like
hours.
sub 24-hour time years on the cards. I was like, here we go. And then it all started going downhill, because then that next section, I put my shoes on. We had two things happen. This is my first learning, big learning that I'll call out, was the mentality that you got to have when it comes to things like, cool, no, the next bit is going to be easy. And then you say that to people, something like that. Or you start saying like, I hope this is almost done. Or, I just want to... That is when you're in all sorts of strife. Because the next piece that came along, two of our teammates thought they'd previously done it, but they were actually incorrect. Because that's called the Polly's hike. That's actually Polly's hike. And they didn't know that was coming up. So... we went into it going like, okay, here we go. It's going to be a nice easy piece. It's just like some creek crossings. No, this was 400 meters of like almost rock climbing up this bloody mountain. And it was no joke, man. It was really, really hard. And at that point, when I got to the top of this next mountain, which was the fourth mountain, I believe it was, my feet were fried. Like, my feet were okay. It's painful. Like, okay, this is hurting. And I was already at that point wishing, okay, I really want to get to the next checkpoint of like seeing people, because I don't want to take my shoes off. And I won't go step by step, but basically what happened specifically for me was I didn't have trouble with like the body movements. Legs, fine. Like, they could have kept on going. And one of the things, researching it afterwards, should have told me this before, they were saying leg strength is what you need. Like, if you've got good leg strength, you're good to go. But for me, each checkpoint that came up, and there was one at 30, one at like 43, with like, you see your support, like the big checks, 43, 60 something, 70 something, and then you go all the way to the finish. At those big ones, every subsequent one, I would take kind of my shoes off, but every time I put my shoes on, a little bit more pain. Like, the pain wasn't going away easy.
Yeah, did you think about potentially what would happen
if I kept them on?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things people say, keep them on. But here's the second learning, right? If you're going on a massive hike, I didn't really think about this. What's one issue that you've got to be on the lookout for?
Toilets
wet socks.
Yeah.
Wet socks. So, for me, I sweat. So my socks were going to get sweaty. At the beginning, I had 2 layers of socks, because I got shoes which were slightly too big for me, so that my feet would kind of like expand into them. I was preempting this. So I took off a layer at one point and then changed socks 3 times. Why? Because your socks get sweaty. And when they get sweaty, your feet start going... You know when you're like been in water for too long?
Yeah. That mushy type of, old lady type fingers were wrinkly and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
That pruny feel. After a long time, you can get like really bad. I don't know, it's called rot foot. I'm struggling to remember the actual specific name, but they called it whatever it was in the army. It was like trench foot. That's what it is.
Trench foot.
So if you have like, you leave your foot water in a long time if your foot in a long time in water, you get trench foot, where it's like you get really bad pains, cramp, and it can start like deteriorating your foot. And actually, at one point when I took my shoes and my socks off, I could actually see in my little toe, it was starting to go completely white. So I took it off and I was like, oh, that's completely white. And I checked the sock and it was really wet in that corner. So you have to take off those socks and start cleaning them out. If you don't, I think you're going to be in real strife. So could I have done the whole thing without taking them off? Maybe, but I don't know what my feet would have done instead. So I kind of went for the point of, okay, I'll let them expand when the shoes come off, and then I'll put them back in the shoe. But yeah, every time I would re-put my shoe on, man.
That would be really... that would suck. That would...
so painful.
Yeah.
And just fast forwarding to the very last checkpoint, which was... So I was talking about 7 in the morning. So we were there the next day at 2-ish p.m. So we were there at 2-ish p.m. and putting on my shoes, it was... Again, I had a shoe that's about size too big. I could barely get my feet into them anymore. Like, they were just not going in. And I was like, oh, dude, this is just crazy for the final stretch. So for me, predominantly, in this massive hike, it's just looking after your feet. So I would have had. I started with no band-aids on my feet at all. Rookie mistake, because some of the prior people had like fully wrapped up all of their toes. So look, that's what I would do if I was to do it again at some point. But I ended up with like 15, 16 band-aids, just more to stop blisters, stop hot spots. But there comes a point in these big hikes. So this is not a walk. So it's not a walk. It is a mixture of a couple of walking with like a lot of hiking. But you get so many bumps in both your toes and the upper foot and the lower foot that then when you are just doing normal walking or slightly downhill, you start to feel the hot spots. I don't know if you've felt this before. Like you would maybe in when you're doing the marathon.
Well, what do you mean by hot spot?
You basically feel in your feet like little spots where it's starting to heat up. It almost feels like it's heat up, which is just me. It's just your foot scraping against your sock or your shoe, right? So there came a point when this was happening almost all around my foot. So front of the toes. When I step forward, toes would get a really big hit spot. When I lifted my leg, the top of the feet was starting to get a heat spot. And then at the bottom, heat spot, right? So I was like, okay, this is painful. But by the tail end, so after that final checkpoint at 60-odd kilometers towards the finish line, it got to a point I couldn't feel my feet anymore. So it was completely numb. So I could not, like it from the feet all the way to about halfway shin up, I could not feel anything below. Like I could be kicking rocks and there would be just no feeling at all. And I knew this because I had a tactic when I was going down hills, because the worst for me is going down hills. Like it is such bullshit to go down hills after walking or hiking for this long. But I was, because it would like smash your toes into your shoe, like walking this way.
Yeah, makes
so
sense.
I was like, okay,
makes sense, yeah.
How can you do this? Like some people and a lot of the teammates were doing this, walk backwards down these hills, right? So you go backwards, but it's so slow, man. So slow.
For sure, yeah.
So what I was trying to do is, okay, what I'm going to do tactically is I'm going to step down this, but to make it nicer on my feet, I'm going to step painfully on rocks. So rather than going down the nice path that was like quite smooth but pretty steep, I was actually looking for rocks that were jutting out.
So you could sort of
so it would kind of exactly. So it would kind of do that angle. But it got to a point where I was doing that, and I no longer felt what I was stepping on anymore. Like it just felt like I was stepping. So at that point,
that's
and I don't
risky,
know,
man.
And I don't know if this was good or not. It's at that point I went, well, now it doesn't matter. So then I started walking like normally down these hills again, and I couldn't feel anything. Like I can't even give you the example of what it would feel like.
That would be scaring the shit out of me.
It would feel like if I don't know, obviously don't know what it's like, but if you were amputated and it was just like a random
just nothingness there, yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. So that was probably the biggest thing. But look, man, on the final stretch, and this is the other one. So the Kokoda challenge. Look, I don't blame it on anybody there, but they lie to you. They lied to you the whole way there. And I actually picked them up at the very end. And I figured out like why they were doing it. Cool, I get it. But sometimes you'd get to a particular checkpoint. And this, I'll go to the very last checkpoint when you see support crew. It said 60, I believe it said 65 kilometers. And they were like, both our support crew and the people, the staff, they'd be like, no, it's actually 68 kilometers. Like we got the numbers wrong. Don't worry, you've only got X amount of distance to go. Like you're almost... Oh, sorry. No, it was 75 and they said it was 78.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, you're almost there. And so you'd be like in a little bit of a high. And they're like, the next checkpoint is 3 kilometers. Off you go. Liars. It was 5.5 kilometers to the next checkpoint. And it was hellacious, right? And so we get to this next point. And they're like, okay. At that point, I thought we had about 50-odd kilometers left. I went, we could finish about 4 o'clock, sub 4 o'clock. I put thongs on because it was the final stretch. And they said, what's left? And I asked them, like, what's left? It's like a bushwalk. It's a bit of a bushwalk. Okay, cool. But they saw me wearing thongs and they're like, ooh. And I kind of, they didn't let off too much, but I was like, whatever. But then we started going into the bush and I went, I'm going to put my shoes back on. I'm just going to put my shoes back on and my socks. I'll finish it off. It's fine because maybe it's going to be a bit of hill. And this was hellfire. And it was just literally up and down the whole way for more than 15 kilometers. It was like 17 kilometers up and down, right? So it was like insanity. We finally got out of there and this was the other thing. So at that point, to give you an idea, we'd been traveling for 32 hours, right? 32 hours, no sleep. At this point also, we forgot to take our head torches. We didn't take any jackets because they told us that we'd have 15-odd kilometers to go, which meant we're going to finish at 4 o'clock. We don't need light. Sucks on us because then I was in the middle of this hellfire place. Menschel was dragging us behind. But look, it was because he was supporting one of our team members, and she broke down. So we kind of had to like talk her through. But I looked to the horizon and I went, this sun's about to set. Like, how long do we have? And I was talking to our other teammate. She said, look, we've got 30 minutes of sunlight. And I went, we have to get out of here, like, now. We have to get out of here. Like, if we don't move right now, we're probably going to have to pull out. Like, we're going to have to call emergency to, like, get us. Because we're going to have no light, no way to navigate us. My watch had died at that point. Like, all this sort of stuff. So I went, like, I waited till everyone caught up. And I was like, we need to go, like, now. We are going non-stop. And so we just started walking, like, non-stop, no stopping, no talking for ages, it felt like, until we got to, like, the next checkpoint when we got out. And at that point, it was starting to set. The sun was setting. And they were like, oh, wow, well done. Like, you're in the final stretch. And here's the final light, which exposes to me about what was going on.
Another, 2Ks left
well,
and it's 12K.
They said, oh, it's 5Ks left. You've got 5Ks left. Now, at this point, I took out my phone to be like, I don't believe these bullshit. It's like, where the hell am I? How far away are we? And it was actually 3Ks away, right? So I was like, you lying son of a bitch. So obviously at the very end, they want to make it feel like it's a really long way.
Yeah, okay.
But it's actually shorter. But they say something to you. And the support crew also, they were like, oh, there will be a spotter out there who will see you. And then he'll advise people back at the finale area to say, hey, they're coming. They're an hour away, right? But there was never any spotter. So it's supposed to be like this full mind game of like, you're looking around being like, where the hell is this goddamn spotter? To make you feel like you're an hour away. But really, you're like sub 1 hour away the whole time. But the final stretch, it was, again, a couple of hills and then just all the way down to the velodrome in Narang. And dude, when I saw the Narang velodrome, it was pretty dark. Like you could almost not see the ground at that point. All the way till the actual final area where it was like so pitch black. I looked back, I couldn't even see anyone anymore. Like, Menchula and our team member sort of like came up a couple of meters afterwards, a couple of minutes afterwards. And then we kind of just like walked through, hands raised, through the finish line. And first thing that I wanted to do, I was like, man, I just want to take my shoes off. And they're like, oh no, you got to get on the stage so we can take photos of you there as well. So anyways, we did that. And then, we kind of hugged it out. And I was surprised Mum and Dad actually came. I didn't even tell them that, they had to come out or anything. Because what we had planned to do, which is retarded, obviously we did a long time, but me and Menchel had parked at the beginning area, which is not where you finish, at the beginning area. And our plan was to catch a bus from there, back to the car, to then drive back home.
Damn,
right from there. But this is me thinking that it's going to be 24-ish hours.
Yeah.
Dude, at this point, it's, 5:30 p.m. It's completely dark.
You should absolutely not be driving.
I was so wrecked. Like, I couldn't believe how wrecked this was. Now, I'll probably talk about other things and other learnings maybe later, so I just want to tell that. But then, my body afterwards, the race, I went home. So we dropped off Menchel to the car. We kind of took him, we drove behind him, making sure that he could drive okay, because he drove himself all the way home. And I went back to Mum and Dad's place. Now, what was the sort of experience that you'd think would be the worst? Moon models at home, what would be the worst? Your feet would be really painful. Your legs would be really sore. What's going on in your mind? Well, actually,
I thought I would feel that I would come out of that with just a general sickness in the stomach. Like I think I would just be feeling just something. And I always hate that for me personally. When I get sick, it's just that queasy stomach feeling. That's what I feel would. Yeah, the feet would suck and all that.
And maybe to inform people as well, just so they get an idea, it wasn't like I had to carry all my food. So the support crew had basically like a food box that you got to pack previously to the night. So you get to fuel up 4 times. And it was like so gracious of them. One of us, the support crew and basically it was like wife and a husband duo. They cooked soup for us. They made eggs and bacon wraps in the morning for us and stuff like that. Like they were like super nice. And that carried me through. So I was eating a lot. I thought maybe I'd be queasy. I really thought it was going to be my feet. I thought, man, my feet are going to be in so much pain after this. Nope. Feet, oh, cool. Again, everything was sore. Don't get me wrong. Everything was sore. But the absolute worst thing is I got to Mum and Dad's place and I went, I'm going to have a bath straight away. Just have a bath. Let's see what it feels like. Moving around. Okay, I'm pretty ginger. But it was the sunburn that got me. Not the skin sunburn, though. Not peeling sunburn. No. I went to bed with, my shirt, a jumper, shorts, a triple layer of sheets and covers on me, and I was shivering, absolutely shivering, I couldn't stop shivering. And it was because I'd gone through this whole journey of really warm in the morning through to -2 degrees up a mountain, kind of walking around, to back to really, really warm in like super sunshine at lunchtime, back to cold without sleeping, that I feel like my system of just like, I don't know, heating or whatnot had like completely shut down, and I was like just shivering, like I couldn't even like stop shivering cold, but I was like just so many layers deep, and I barely slept that first night. Barely. Actually, and so that next night I was like that night I go home, I barely slept.
Not being able to sleep after all that.
I had to like sit up a little while, and then I got back to sleep for a couple of hours. Then like 3 a.m. I was back awake, and I couldn't get back to sleep. And it's genuinely taken like till last night to sleep a full night from that. So I was like, oh man, like that wrecked my sleep hardcore. So
far out, man.
Yeah, there was a couple of things. I mean, and the biggest one I want to share is the story of going up the top peak, the top of Army Land, and this was just surreal in like an amazing way, but brutal at the same time. And the story goes that, again, it's one of those hikes, you know, you're going through all these bushland and hike, but you can't really see the sky too well until you get to a point, open meadow, and you can see the top. You can see up to the top, 550 whatever meters is the top area, but you're now in the open, and all we can see, like literally all you can see is like this nicely, because the moon's reflecting what's going on, so you can see people like tiny dots going up this hill on this big green grass meadowy area. It is blowing so hard, like for people in Brisbane who are aware of how windy it's been. It was like
that last night. So I was praying for you, Juan.
Dude, it was so windy. I was so cold.
I was cold in the middle of the day doing my workouts in the full sunshine on the Saturday morning, Saturday midday, and I was freezing my ass off, and I just went, This wind's meant to last until the next day, Sunday midday or something.
It was windy, and it was, we found out later, -2 degrees. -2 degrees up there.
Far out.
And we were walking up there, and I had jacket, but no beanie, no gloves or anything like that. And we were kind of split up of the team of 4. We was like 2 and 2, kind of like walking in front of each other and behind each other. And so the person that I was walking with, her head torch stopped working because she ran out of batteries. So in the whole that whole walk up there, it was just one person's head torch to kind of guide the way. And unfortunately, Manshil and the other partner like kind of like went off to the side, so much so that obviously we got all the way to the top and they weren't even there around, and we had to call up someone to go and pretty much rescue them and help them like direct their way. But that was one of those moments where you had to just put your head down and like just go, because you couldn't stop out there. There's no way you could stop out there. You'd like, if you stopped, you wouldn't want to get going. You just want to like cower away and just kind of like hide away. One of the biggest thoughts actually that came to me as well was, if you're stuck out in one of these mountains or like those remote, you know, when you like might get into a plane crash or something like that, and you go, oh, I could survive for a couple of days if I had food.
Yeah, you die.
Dude, if I was up in one of those mountains, stranded at night with no light, and I was like, you wouldn't move. You could not move. Like, it was so dark and so cold, you would either lose yourself or you'd stumble and like break your neck. For sure. Like some of those steep declines, I was like, there's no way anybody can move here without light. But
damn, man.
Yeah, man, plenty. Obviously, lots of little like things in there. Like we didn't fall into any of the creeks, which was really, really nice. But throughout all that, like everyone lost at least something. Like we all left our sticks somewhere like randomly, either at the beginning because you're just like clumsy, or at the end because you just can't like, you're not even thinking anymore. A lot of food that I thought I was going to eat, wasn't eating any of that. Your stomach did churn a lot. So obviously after like the big first checkpoint, I like smashed down all this food, and then literally from then on, my stomach was just like hating me the whole time because it was like, you're still moving and you got a lot of food, but you're still hungry. I think I calculated that my watch calculated that I'd done, so this is without my base metabolic rate, I'd done over 4,500 calories of like just what it called walking, but it was hiking. So I probably was burning 7,000, 8,000 calories a day or more, and I was not even close to ingesting that much. I couldn't eat anymore. I was like, I'm too sick to eat more of this food. So it was just like, it was all sorts of expending so much calories, but not really getting enough. And one of those, say, what's my takeaway for the hike? Would I do it again? Not that distance again. But my sister made a comment on one of my Instagram posts, and she said like, "Oh, I would do it." She trained to do it. And I said, "Look, I'd do the half one. I do the half one in Brisbane. I would do it with you. Would I go and do the full distance again? No. There's too many cons that I've had. Like there was no training really before that, like I did, there's been really no.
Well, that one's on you.
Well, I didn't want to train. I didn't want to. It was more like no, it's in like I didn't want to train too much. So I didn't want to have sore muscles for the hike. So I actually said like, oh, I'm not going to go these couple of days to do it. But obviously, post the hike, I haven't gone at all because my feet have been so swollen.
I'm talking about training for the hike, not.
Oh no! I'm not talking the actual training for the hike because I definitely didn't do enough.
Yeah,
it was more a week prior to the hike.
Yeah,
I didn't do any of my normal training.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like training. It's taken me away 2.5 weeks, maybe of my normal training to do this one thing. Sure, lots of positives, lots of perspectives. Yep, lots of gratefulness. Like again, it gives you like, oh man, I'm grateful to be able to like walk again normally, or have a bed, or not be freezing and about to like feel like I'm gonna die. But yeah, in a nutshell, would I do it again? No. Was it worth it? Yes, but I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah. I'll ask you questions later. So that was a big a big bit. But yeah, there's definitely some things I want to quiz you on in terms of some of the other learnings and other things that happened in it.
Good.
So I'll talk now about my constantly fighting the desire to add things back in. So I've been removing stuff, and announcement people here, you're live for you one, but not live for everyone else. I am going to stop the reseñas for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got to the point where one, I was not enjoying any of the process anymore. It was sort of like, I have to do the translation. I have to go do this video now. It takes longer than it does to do the English ones, and I can't do them, I feel, as nicely because I have to do them more chop to the start, because in them I was really trying not to have any ums or likes or ers or any of that.
Yeah, you really kind of keep it clean, and professional.
Just with the way I was doing them, I'd do them in the mornings, and just my brain doesn't have enough time to kick into Spanish gear to really be in conversational.
Sure.
Not that it's it's a conversation with myself and the camera, but I personally was just not liking it, and then also realizing I think I've got about as much out of this as I could. So I've done the reseñas for, I think it was close to a year, maybe even slightly more. It was around that time period. And yeah, so plenty of videos, plenty of practice. I do intend on going back to some of the first ones and seeing
the improvement,
what they were like then. I hope there's improvement. I haven't checked, but in terms, I was just realizing, I did this to improve my vocab, to improve my speaking skills, to, I guess, even just, put myself out there a bit more. Yep. So it was definitely a bit uncomfortable doing things in Spanish because...
Just different,
some of the insecurities can pop up. Oh, my Spanish is shit. Oh, I'm saying these words wrong. Or, I'm using the feminine in this, saying like el dama, things like that, where it should be la dama. So all those sorts of things were... I felt I got most of a handle on, and I was getting real good at saying synopsis, the conclusion, the setting, this takes to tuve lugar and blah blah blah. So I was realizing, okay, yes, my vocab has expanded a lot, but now I'm repeating a lot of the same things over and over. And yes, the book might require me to look up something new, convict, for example, or high class lady. I don't particularly know how to say that right off the bat, but that was where it was getting to the point where I just went, what I'm struggling with now? I'm struggling with conversations, because I'll meet people at the park and it's not like I've switched on instantly and it's going real quick. Yep. So all of that together, am I stopping it forever? I don't know.
Pause. Let's call it a pause.
It's definitely a break. So, if in the future, what I think would be really awesome for me was if I found a Latino of some sort in Brisbane who also likes to read books. That would be ideal. I'd say, hey, let's get together once a week. We'll do a reseñas in Spanglish. We don't even have to read the same book. We can just read separate books, talk about the book, have it more of a conversation.
It could even just be like, it doesn't even have to be a reseñas about books as well. It could be about just...
I could change the channel. I had changed the channel to an Australian outside, un Australiano afuera, but because I did have plans of, I'll do these videos outside, or I'll start including calisthenic ones, or I'll do all these things, and
adding.
Yes, if I had a lot more time, If I had that pill that would not allow me to, sleep 1 hour a night, yeah, sure.
Maybe, yeah.
I'd potentially do these things, but at the moment, I just went, no, okay, I need to stop these. So that's freed up a lot of time. So what did Kyron want to do instantly? Let's add more German in. Let's you're taking away Spanish. Let's add more Spanish in a different manner. Read more of the books in the morning. And I had to fight, man. I really had to fight and say, no, you've taken these things away. Don't add back in an extra workout session. You've just increased it to 5 a week. Don't try going for 6 and 7. Don't put in more German. Don't put in more Spanish. Yeah. And I really wanted to, man. I really, really wanted to. So I think there is I don't know. This could just be a more of a you and me thing where it's, you take away something and then you feel
immediately
that
you're like, you gotta go. Yeah.
I'm missing out. I'm not doing these things.
Well, here's an interesting one. It's giving away a little bit of a monthly goal. It's coming up later for me. But one of the things that I've put as a goal is that I'm forcing myself to have an hour a week where I do something that's fun, but it isn't something that I'm already doing. Like, it's not an hour of TikTok or something like that. But it's like an hour to actually no. If I'm taking away somewhere to find this hour, don't think that I've got to add an extra hour of a workout or whatever. Yeah. No, I'm actually adding an hour to just like do something else, something different. It doesn't have to be for efficiency or effectiveness here.
Yeah, yeah, and same things. I was thinking of my goals for next year. What are some of them probably going to be? I think I want to try and increase my flexibility to get the full splits, full side splits, full pancake and stuff. Or I could maybe get a start on that now, start doing more pancake activity. And so, no, cut it out. And then I went, all right, if we're doing this cutting out thing, you do it properly. So I cut out my whole morning routine. So my old morning routine of wake up, do the gratifications or negative visualize. I changed that, but, do that sort of thing immediately upon awaking. And then doing 5 minutes meditation and then doing 5 minutes of pancake stretching. Yep. And then going to... clean my teeth and then getting immediately into the next book review or the next thing and doing that until this period and then, do my stretching. I said, no, I got to cut all of it out. So my morning routine now is I'll wake up and I might just chill in the bed for a little bit until I feel ready to get up. It's only 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then I'll just sort of wander along and it's, if I feel like I want to go on the computer first, I'll do that first. So yeah, just once again, adding... that desire to add it back in is just so pernicious, man. It's just so deeply in there, and it's
ingrained.
You have to force it. So force not to do it. So I want to see how far I can push it. I think I'm getting towards the limits of okay, I can cut things out now, but then it would be cutting out important stuff like these book reviews or the book reviews or something that's really important for me doing with my family. Yeah, that's getting to that point. So, yeah, just coming to that realization.
Yeah, that's hard, actually. That's a good point you make, because, it is hard to keep something, like, cut out. And it is... Maybe it's where it's like if you're one of those people who is an A-type or someone who always wants to be striving. No, I totally get on board with, like, have goals, have things that you're following. But I guess life isn't meant to be lived at this most efficient way. Like, sometimes it's okay to be less efficient, sometimes to be less effective, and sometimes cut things out. Sure, maybe you're not going to be the I don't know if I had to put a ranking, like you're not going to be 123,000th of the world of like that's made it to this particular thing quicker than somebody else. But like, look, does it matter in the end? Maybe not, but it would matter if you get there in a happy way, in a joyous way. So if you get there by pushing yourself, that kind of like loses its meaning as well. Or might not lose its meaning, but you give it a different meaning. And it's like, meh.
And it's well, you're taking away things, Karen. What are you doing with that time then? And so this is where it's I dive deep into the podcasting 2.0 world. I got some extra things related to us that's just been in the backlog for ages and was never going to get done. Yep. I sewed my bloody button onto my pants because it'd been missing for ages and went, fuck it, I need to go do this. So I looked up a video of how to sew something back on. It only takes 20 minutes, but just that process of doing all those little things. So lots of fun doing that. And is this going to continue forever? No, I'm probably going to add some other things, particularly related to the podcasting 2.0.
But then it's adding it smartly, right? And then in the end, I mean, and this is the other thing, I think someone might listen to and be like, well, what the hell? You're not doing anything anymore. You're not being effective.
You lazy piece of shit.
Lazy. Well, I think sometimes it's good to know. It's like, okay, well, it's a period of time. Like, you might go, you were being really efficient, right, with those mornings, and it served a great purpose. And then now it's like, okay, peel it back, get it back to its core things, reinvestigate what is it that I want to be doing for the next whatever period. You set your targets. Okay, cool. Now I can build an efficient protocol that goes for it and actually go and do things. Cool. So, whether you want to call it that people are going through like their actual actioning stage or strategizing phase or thinking about a stage, like I think it's cool to go through those phases and be okay with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely for sure. Like I would be exactly the same thing where it's like, oh no, it's got to be always like it's got to be always something. It's got to be. Or else it's like it's not functioning well. And sometimes it's gonna be like, no. It's okay. It's okay to not dive into solution or action straight away.
Yeah.
Taking it back to like the first conversation we had about principles. Sometimes you got to just assess, review, just look back, and then go at it in a better approach.
Yeah, and just letting go as well. The Spanish, it's mostly going to stay there. If I don't do anything for maybe 3 years, maybe it won't be so great. But I'm pretty sure I can go 3 months and not really see that much of a degradation in it. That most of the stuff is still in there.
Sure.
And won't take that much to get it back again.
To that level.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I think we'll call it there for today. We'll leave the sperm donation for another episode.
Good. All right, folks. Have I encouraged you to go do a 96-kilometer hike?
Yeah,
or
for
hiking? Because I hope I discouraged you. You can just go donate to these people and don't do it. Just donate to someone who's doing it and don't actually do it yourself. That's my suggestion, because it also costs probably in excess of to get all the things, the food or whatever, plus donations over like
plus
$1,000.
all the shit that's left on the course now and the littering.
$1,000 easy per person. So and there was 1,000 people doing it, right? So it's a lot of stuff. Anyways. You know what to do. If you're on YouTube or whatever else, make sure you're checking it out, liking, subscribing. Same thing goes for the audios. Thank you for joining us, folks. That's all. The Immortals. One out.
Current out.
Swam.